Hello and welcome. Campbell here from Autodidactic, and I'm back for another chat with Guy Anderson. Guy, the amazing author. Obviously, the author of Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, and now a double author, a second book down. I mean, geez, that was pretty quick too. What's that, two in 2 years or something?
Yeah. The first one was really about Tartaria, which I'd been looking into for about 5 years. The pandemic was the catalyst, really. But my second book connects to it because it's to do with human cloning and repopulation, and that's something that I'd been researching since 2012. So I actually had more research on the second book than I did in years under my belt than I did on the first.
Okay. Nice. So clones, okay, we've all heard about the Cabbage Patch Kids, the orphan trains, the infant incubators, and the whole were they cloned? Where did they come from? Basically, these empty cities, and then suddenly people and no kids, and then suddenly people holding kids, and they look like they're wondering what they're holding, and all
Yeah.
this weirdness. And then, I mean, recently, right? Like the clone conversation is alive and well on the internet. So, yeah, tell us your thoughts. What have you found? What are your theories on cloning? What is going on, Guy?
Have you heard of Donald Marshall?
I have heard of Donald Marshall. Was he he was, yeah, the talking about celebrity clones, right?
Yeah, yes, it was Donald that got me into this. I started looking into him on BitChute, which we can no longer get here. It's been banned in the UK.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
No
yeah. How
way.
about that for suppression? Um,
Jeez.
yeah, and I started looking into Donald Marshall because he was claiming that his family, or his stepfather at least, was part of the Illuminati, and that he, as a child, had been taken to one of these dumb bases. He said it all goes on in the dumb bases. They all actually have dozens of lower levels underground, and that some of them are specific to cloning, and that he was circumcised when he was a little kid, and they used his foreskin to clone him, and really it sort of
What?
yeah, and obviously he wasn't aware of this, and he's been trying to expose this for some time now. Obviously, this is, you know, we don't know if what he's putting out there is true or not, but he's written quite a few books on it, and he was everywhere. 2012, he was everywhere. Really, up until about 2020, you could find him all over the place. Typically, BitChute, and then he just disappeared. Um, some people say he was killed because of what he was saying, because he was actually implying that there were senior members of the British royal family that were involved in this, world leaders, and he actually put several books out there, which I read, that explained how the process actually takes place. And I started reading them, and then I spun off and started digging into Tartaria because, like you mentioned a moment ago, the empty cities. I started looking at, is it possible that they were cloning to repopulate after Tartaria fell? So I started doing some maths. I looked at the number of deaths from all the civil wars leading up to the fall of Tartaria, and then after going up to all the way up to the First World War, and looking at the drop in population, which, if you look at if you look at the stats online, then it's showing you that we suddenly had a boom. But that boom was at a time when a lot of men had been killed. Millions of men had been killed in battle.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and some people say, well, that the reason for the boom in population is because a lot of them would have you know decided to try and conceive before they went off to war. But these wars lasted years. The numbers don't stack up. So you've got a diminished population of males. This is before we had sperm banks and IVF and so on, fertility treatment. So over a very short period of time, we see a massive reduction in men through war, and generally quite a big drop in population figures for genocide, famine, and diseases, various different outbreaks that occurred. But at exactly that same time, the population actually increases. It doesn't stack up.
No, no, he was making all the babies. Someone.
Exactly. And as you quite rightly said, if you watch Alice Guy's movies, the first two films that she produced, the Cabbage Fairy and then Midwife to the Upper Classes, as you quite rightly said, they're holding a baby like it's something they haven't seen before. And they certainly don't look like they know how to handle them either.
No, no, that first that fairy movie, like she's holding them by the feet and stuff, and just
Mm,
almost throwing them around, right?
yeah,
It, it's
yeah, it's
it's
it's uncomfortable, isn't it?
mm,
And that sort of begs the question, if that was your child and somebody said, we're making a movie, could we use your baby in it? Um, you might think, well, okay, that, brilliant. My baby's going to be, a very, very young, movie star or whatever. Or you might be dead against it. But either way, you would be very concerned seeing someone handling your child like that.
mm,
So where were the parents? And we've seen this before, haven't we? In a lot of the photographs we look at from world's fairs and all of these people on beaches wearing suits and top hats, and they don't look like they should be there either. There
no,
aren't any kids anywhere.
no
You
kids,
just
and
don't
they're
see
all wearing
images
the
of them.
same clothes.
Mm,
Like they came out of a factory, went through a clothes warehouse, and got their issues, and went, like you do in the army, right? Everyone gets issued the same
yeah,
thing.
I was just going to say that the sort of demob suit. Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Mm,
it's weird, isn't it? They're all wearing the same thing, and then they plonk them in a queue outside a entrance to a World's Fair, or stick them on the beach, and they look absolutely baffled, don't they? They don't
jeez.
appear to know what the hell's going on. So
Yeah.
so a lot of people guess, and I do lean towards this, that these people that are wandering around possibly hadn't seen babies before.
Mm. I mean, that's what it looks like. There's a lot of photos. There's one of like a lady who was a film star back in the 20s, and she goes out and adopts, a baby, and there's these photos of her holding it, and it's like she doesn't know what a baby is.
Mm,
And then apparently
yeah.
that baby disappeared at somewhere along the line, right? She sort of adopted it, and then, a couple of years later, she didn't have a child anymore. So,
Oh,
so,
oh,
so even
Christ.
like the whole attitude, it seems like there was this, oh, well, it's too much trouble or something, I'll get rid of it kind of. It's not what we see as parents, right? That's not how parents think of children. So, and of course, adopted, but even adopted, you're doing that because you love children. So it was this weird, very weird time, right? Like they've been given kids
Yeah,
and told how to raise them, and then it takes a while, and then we still have this thing today that's still there, right? Of all this family trauma, right? Like, beating children and all this kind of stuff and violence, because like you got to wonder how could that start? Where could that start? And if you're constantly giving birth to children down the line, then you're being taught to love them, right? But if you suddenly handed them, you don't know what they are, and they're keeping you up all night, and you got no connection to them, then that's when violence and things might creep in, right?
yeah. There's a link to that with baby farms.
Baby
It
farms, yeah.
Yeah, it was prevalent here. There was they were basically the idea of them was that at the time, if you were pregnant out of wedlock, then it was shunned upon. You could be ostracized. Your entire family could be ostracized or kicked out of the community. So these young girls were taking their babies to these baby farms, and it was in the hope that they would get a better life, and they
Mm.
would pay their keep. They would actually pay each week a small amount of money for the upkeep of the child,
Oh,
and the idea being that they would either come and get them when they could, or that they would be sent away somewhere else for a better life. But there was a woman called Amelia Dyer, who's considered to be the most prolific serial killer in the history of Britain. And she ran the biggest baby farm in London.
Oh my
And
God.
she was actually killing them. A lot of them were being killed. But people are saying that she was sort of smothering them. She was hiding them in places. She was wrapping them up and dropping them in the river and in wells and so on. And so a lot of them were being disposed of. And a little bit like the orphan trains, when people did come and literally purchase one of these babies from the baby farms, there was no paperwork. And like the orphan trains in America, these kids thought that they were going to be adopted, and it was very rare. No paperwork actually changed hands, and they were often moved from farm to farm. And the strange thing with the orphan trains in particular is that all of these children were shipped from New York and Philadelphia to the Midwest of
Mm,
America
yeah.
to go and live with farming communities and farming families. But typically, these families would have been larger. If you wanted more children to help work on the farm and raise a family, then you just had more kids.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
were they bringing in children? What was the need for like 500,000 kids to be moved from New York and that area
Mm,
across to the Midwest? And where did all these kids come from, and where were their parents? It, it it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
dark.
That's a
It,
good question because, yeah, like if you even in the history, right, the narrative, they tell you that farming people back then, they were having, six, seven, eight kids, right?
mm,
And that's
yeah,
why, because they were free labor basically for all,
yeah, absolutely.
as they grew up. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely got a dark, aura to it, doesn't it? Because, I mean, we know today they kind of do the same thing, right? It's just more under covers, but so was this the start of all that? Have you sort of looked into that or any connections? Obviously, we can't sort of probably say too many words, but
No,
like with what's going on now, and even in the spotlight, with celebrities, adopting babies from all around the world, right? They love to get all these international
yeah.
adoptions going. Like, do you think it's the same thing that they're being used for what we don't want to think about?
Yes, I think so. I do think so. Yeah, I think I certainly think. Well, it's very strange, isn't it? Because if you look at certain celebrities in Hollywood, that, like you said, they'll go anywhere in the world to adopt a kid, and you've got people like Angelina Jolie and so on. That, um, yeah, it's nefarious. That there's definitely a purpose for that, and we know all about what you can, with blood transfusions, and when that procedure actually takes place while a child is frightened,
Yeah.
then that can be a little bit more appealing to the person doing it. That actually what they're looking for. It's all things to do with. Well, is it a combination of some sort of ritual as well as doing things to prolong life and prevent aging? And
Mm.
perhaps it's the two things combined, that it's done in a ritualistic way. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always been this desire for children. I mean, we've spoken about vampires before, and if you look at the history of that, it's always young girls. So there's definitely a desire with a certain group of people to obtain children and babies.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there was even that interview with, I think it was Sandra Bullock, was it?
Yeah.
And what was she saying? She was using
What was he saying?
what was
It's one hell of an Adam's apple.
um was it what foreskins or something or
Yeah.
blood foreskins? Was it something like
Foreskins.
to
Yeah.
make yourself look younger? And then
Mm,
now, of course, we have these people out there, right? Like Tom Cruise, mid 60s.
mm.
That dude's looking pretty young. Have you seen the Martha Stewart recently? Do you
No.
know who Martha Stewart is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
geez, check that out after. She's 83 or something, and she's just come out in a video and it's a completely different person, but and she looks like 50. But then also, which is interesting, is some people who have left Hollywood, like Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell, and a couple that they're aging really fast suddenly.
Mm,
Isn't that interesting? So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
are
Once
we
they step
seeing all
out
the
of that,
effects? Yeah, so they're on it when they've got their supplies, but once they get out of town and they get off it, it all comes back. Because I mean, this is one of the major things of Hollywood, right? Is the whole you got to be young and beautiful. Like it's all
yeah,
completely how you look, right?
yeah. Yeah, and people talk all the time about there being tunnels that link certain buildings and homes in Hollywood. I mean, there are tunnels everywhere, aren't there? I think they've always been there. They've just been repurposed now for other things. Although, having said that, I often wonder if the tunnels weren't tunnels; they were corridors, and a few mud floods later, they become tunnels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've definitely had that thought. Yeah, like,
But
just the
with
way
the
they're
Hollywood,
built, right? Like they'd be hard to
yeah,
build like that underground. Hmm.
it doesn't make any sense, really, does it? Why would you dig underground to build a tunnel? Why wouldn't you build above ground a corridor or an alleyway?
Mm.
It'd be a lot easier
Yeah, yeah.
and
No, I agree with that one.
a lot safer to construct. So I think that a lot of these tunnels weren't originally tunnels, but
Mm.
Hollywood, it's difficult to know with Hollywood whether it's a combination of doing certain things or ingesting certain things, or whether or not these people have been cloned. Because a lot of them have spoken out. Kevin Hart being one of them. I don't know if you saw an interview he did, but he was asked. It sort of went viral, and he was asked how he could be in so many places at so many times. And the interview kind of went along the lines of I put the TV on, you're there. I go onto Twitter and you're there. And I go onto Facebook, you're there. I go to the cinema, you're there. Right? I go on to Netflix, you're there. You are everywhere. How? How can you possibly do this? And he said, well, I've been cloned. There's a good couple of me. That's actually the words he uses. There's a good couple of me out there. He said, you asked, I've told you, I've been told I can tell you. And the man laughs. And he says, you're laughing, but you asked me and I've told you I've been cloned. And people say, well, cloning, is it possible? And I often, and this is a relatively new, if we look at the history, in theory, the history of cloning, Dolly the sheep is relatively new. And I've been asked several times
Mm.
by people that can't quite get their head around it, which is totally understandable. It's one hell of a deep dive.
Mm.
You might be able to clone a sheep, but cloning a human being is completely different. And my answer to that is why?
It's not. It's
About
the exact same process.
yeah, why would it be different? And incidentally, Dolly the sheep's named after Dolly Parton because they used a cell from a mammary gland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Um, but I've said to people so many times now that if you look at the Bible and the story of Adam and Eve, and I know a lot of people say well, it's Adam and Lilith, but if we take Adam and Eve as being an early example, or even if we believe everything in Genesis and the Old Testament as being factual, literally take it verbatim, then the story of Eve is the first clone
Yeah, yeah.
taken from the
That
rib of
that's
Adam.
that's in the second creation story. I must have to add there. There's two
So
two creation stories, but I mean it's interesting because does that mean that the first creation story it says, God the Creator created man and woman, he created them both from the dust of the earth.
yeah,
And then this
red clay in particular.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then this the Lord dude appears, the Lord God, and he creates Adam, and then Adam's lonely, so he creates, yeah, Eve from Adam's rib, which I mean it is very just genetic engineering, right? Like that's where you get your
yeah,
DNA from. That's one of the good places. So it's interesting. And I mean it's interesting that it's just red dirt, right, in the original creation. What's that?
yeah.
Is
I mean,
that
the if
DNA as well?
it the weird thing with that is that you could argue that well, it's just a metaphor. They didn't actually take a rib of Adam. It's just a metaphor. Okay, fine. But in that book, which is old, there's no debating. You know, the Bible is a very old document. Um, if whether it's a metaphor or not, they have written in that book that someone took a rib and created another person from it. Now, whether or not it happened and it's a metaphor or didn't happen, it was still written in black and white that a
Mm.
rib was taken and another life form was created.
Mm.
Now, that they are, if it happened or not is kind of irrelevant. They have written in that book that somebody was cloned from another human being.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
of course you
Oh,
mentioned Lord, which I believe is Lord Enki. Again, they couldn't get the human, the Homo sapien, they couldn't get it to reproduce and it could and not function quite how they wanted to. And it was when they put red clay in, so an element from red clay, that suddenly bingo, you know, everything
right.
worked and we could reproduce. So the red clay is quite popular. It's also popular in the story of the golem, which is the Jewish mythology about something very similar to the homunculus. Red clay
Yes.
appears again there. So there's something in this. So there's perhaps something within red clay, an element that's vital in as a component of doing this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just makes me think of obviously, blood and DNA because there's so many stories of blood falling from the sky, but now
Yes.
they'd say it was probably red clay, right? And the
Yeah.
ocean's going blood red. I heard you chat with Martin the other day, and you were talking about meat falling from the sky
Yeah.
and all this
Yeah.
weird stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting, right? I mean, or it could just be something that is in the earth. Who knows? Maybe you need to be grounded to something. I'm not sure. But basically, I mean, Enlil and Enki, that whole story is like a predecessor, really, right? Trigger warning here,
Yeah.
Christians, a predecessor of the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's followed the story of the Anunnaki, you know, we were created as a slave race to mine, and of course the you know previous to that they'd made the Ajiji,
Yes.
which was a sort of a reptilian type uh, being that were doing the mining, and then after a revolt, a rebellion, they went back to the drawing board and came up with us, you know, based upon the Neanderthal wandering around. Incidentally, with that story, they say that the Anunnaki were very surprised to see that the Neanderthal was eating the flesh of other mammals, and they were horrified by that.
Oh, so Neanderthals were meat eaters. Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, and they found that really disturbing.
That's interesting. I
Mm,
think because the whole meat eating thing's a whole nother story, but that's a whole nother,
absolute. Yeah, that's for
with
another
these.
time, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just
Yeah.
weird that we're born with empathy for animals. We don't have a killer instinct, right? Like all other carnivores do. We don't see an animal and think, food and run out, like we want to go and pat it. So that's a weird one, but
Mm,
we'll stay out of that corridor or else off we go.
yeah.
Um, I did have a question, but now I've forgotten it. You go.
It'll come back
It
to you in a
will.
minute. Probably come back after this, but yeah. So I decided to sort of do some digging, and I started looking at you know the history of human cloning and also the history of with the homunculus and the golem of people trying to create life without natural reproduction. And so it's not a big leap. I mean, you know, if the technology, if we look at the story of Adam and or we look at the story of the Anunnaki creating us, then obviously human cloning is something that could well have been around for a very, very long time. And I think that this technology, that suppressed, occulted technology, is still within the hands of a certain group of people. Um, and I think that that's true with weapons like direct energy weapons and so on. I think that the technology has been there a very long time. But we're not privy to any of that. It's very much deep state, very hidden. So
Yeah.
so it's not much of a stretch, really. So looking at what happened to end Tartarian, I do believe direct energy weapons were used there to cause quakes, mudslides, and so on. To repopulate quickly, which you would need to do because they needed an infrastructure. We suddenly see this emergence of these postcards, the Cabbage Patch Baby postcards, repopulation postcards, Alice Guy's films that we mentioned earlier on, and then the orphan train movement, the baby farms, children being shipped all over the world. An incredible number of children were shipped from Russia
Mm.
across
Yes.
the world. Um, and a brilliant way to restart. So what I think took place was the civil wars were a brilliant opportunity for us to kill ourselves and depopulate. And I think they also enjoy watching us do that. So I think it's that there are two reasons for them to want to do that: depopulation, get rid of the previous civilization. Then you haven't got people wandering around that won't comply and are fighting back and questioning things. And then you lock up the men that are left that won't toe the line. The women, well, if they've lost their husband in battle or for a whole host of other reasons, like even being over religious or reading too much, you can lock them up. Falling off a horse was a
Mm.
reason to be committed. So you can lock the women away. You can lock the men away that survived, and you can repopulate with a whole new narrative. And these babies mixed in with orphans are not going to know what happened before. They're not going to have any knowledge of the
Right.
previous civilization.
Yeah.
And of course, the indigenous children that were taken from their homes and families, they were given new surnames, forced to speak English, and you start again. So I think that it was a combination of using baby farms and orphanages to get these clones out there. And then we have the incubator babies in the world's fairs. And you think at the time that they're trying to do things to save the life of a premature baby, they had an epidemic apparently in New York, for example, of children on the streets, homeless children. So
Yeah.
that doesn't
Well,
stack up.
no, well, it's weird, isn't it? But yeah, we get all the orphan stories, right? Tom Sawyer, Orphan Annie, Oliver
Yeah,
Twist, like they just all through that period. They're all through the books. But I mean, I guess one of the big questions is, they've put all this effort into repopulating, and definitely, after the wars, there was a big call out, repopulate, have babies.
yeah,
And now they seem to want the opposite.
yes.
So have you got any thoughts on that, on what's going on there?
I think that when we get to a certain point where we are starting to fight back, that's when depopulation becomes important to them. And I think they've probably done it several times. I don't think that the end of Tartaria was the first time they had to repopulate. Um, but I think that it goes in cycles. And right
Mm.
now, I don't suppose for one moment social media has helped our cause because we're now putting information out there that fights back against the system. We've got people looking at the straw man, and that actually, these full caps names that we see on,
Yeah.
that appear on, you know, bills, fines, government documents that aren't actually referring to us, but this dead legal fiction.
Mm.
So many people are now
Yes.
wise to it and are fighting back. So I think it's I think that it's time that they repopulated again, and I think that that's why we are, that perhaps that's what's behind the pandemic a few years ago now. I think that was a fundamental part of that. We've got constant conflict going on all
Mm.
over the world. We've got a huge rise in things like cancer, um, but this time, of course, with AI and people like Musk out there, they can repopulate without humans. They can have an
Yes.
infrastructure
I was going to ask
automated.
about that. Yeah, and robots, right? Like,
Yeah,
you think that's where they might be going, is they've now made a better servant?
Absolutely right, because that's ultimately all we are, isn't it? And with money isn't important to them because it's fiat currency. It's not
Yeah,
real. It's digital.
yeah.
So it's not that they now need us to go to work so we can pay tax to support them and keep these parasites fed. It or I think all that money is a way in which we can be trapped into a system and punished.
Mm.
They can put the price of everything up. There is no reason why the people at the very top can't just put a couple of zeros on the bank balance for any particular
Oh,
country.
of course. And that's what they do.
Mm. So it's not about the money. I think it's about control.
Oh,
Um,
completely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And
that's
ownership,
what I
right?
think.
Like they've tricked us
Yes,
into exchanging all actual physical materials and goods and land for worthless bits of paper.
yeah,
Such a scam.
yeah, and that's all it is, isn't it? Barter and trade, to is kind of where we stemmed from, and I think that that's where we need to go back to. And
Mm.
people are constantly talking to me about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and I'm thinking that you are making this problem worse.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I understand. I think, if you know what's going on, they can make money off it through the fluctuation.
yeah,
But ultimately, yeah, is that where we want to go? Like that's a system created thing. That's everyone, I mean, and they'll say, oh, but it's blockchain and it's all privacy, but it's still reliant on a central, control system, basically.
yeah. And cash was private.
Yeah,
If I
cash,
went somewhere
and
and bought
cash is
something,
untaxable,
yeah, and untraceable. That's the
untraceable.
problem, isn't it? It can't be controlled and contained. If I come and buy something from you and just give you cash, then that transaction never existed,
Mm.
on the system, and that is something that they don't like. And I think that so many shops here, I don't know what it's like there, but so many shops here are no longer taking cash, and I think
Yeah.
you're making this problem worse. You're feeding this,
Yeah.
and it might be convenient, but actually what you're going to do is ultimately put everybody in a position where if I say something on Facebook tomorrow that goes against the system, they can turn my bank account off and I can't function.
Mm.
I can't go and buy a pint of milk or turn
Yep.
my electricity on. you know we've got to be really careful with this.
Totally, man. And it's all, yeah, they can just juggle it, right? It's like Biden, with his, what was it, $17 trillion, which, like you said, was just a couple of zeros someone put into a computer, and suddenly every dollar that every American's got in their pocket is devalued. It's
Yeah,
like, and that's
yeah,
what they can do. I don't know what's like in England, but the price of food is getting crazy here. And I live in the country, like literally, I drive like three minutes, if that, like a minute, and there's farms with cows all over them, and there's dairies, and there's all this stuff. Yet the price for food up here and meat and dairy and all that is going through the roof. It's
yeah.
insane.
They seem to be anti-farm at the moment, don't
Oh,
they?
they
They're
they
trying to sort of finish that off.
they
I
want to
mean, here,
control the food for sure, man. It's one of their
yeah,
weapons against us, right?
it is. Yeah, it
Mm.
is, and the farmers here are fighting back a bit, but they're not doing it the right way. I mean, I personally believe that to go and protest and block in a supermarket with your tractor. I mean, it's great that you feel that passionate about it and you want to do something, but I personally think that what we need to do is remove ourselves from the system, and if I had somebody that was involved in that, and I perhaps I'm the landlord of the local pub, and one of the gentry round here is part of the World Economic Forum, or a senior government official, or connected with one of these bloodline families, or think tanks. I would ban them.
Yeah.
I would
I,
completely ostracize them and their entire families from the community, and say that the only way you're going to understand the damage you're doing is if we fight back, and we're going to
mm,
fight back, in a peaceful way. But you're no longer welcome. We no longer even acknowledge your existence,
mm,
and that can be schools, the local church, the
All the
a
shops.
community event, the
Yeah.
shops, everything, and say you're not welcome, you're banned.
Mm.
And start making life awkward for them, because they sure as hell are doing it for us. And I
They
think
are,
that that's
man.
the way to do it. I think you can protest, you can start petitions and march up and down the streets. It's not going to change anything, because you're not actually causing any inconvenience, and they will enjoy watching our frustration.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
like that
yeah. And they
low
know where we are,
vibration.
right? They can get the cops out and get their bloody pepper sprays and their sonic weapons
Exactly.
and get all ready. But I saw that happen to Keir Starmer. He
Yeah.
tried to go into a pub and some guy,
Yeah.
the owner, just went, get out. He went crazy
Yeah.
at
Now,
him.
if you imagine that happened everywhere he went,
It should happen everywhere
and
completely.
his
It happened in
children,
Victoria too to the premier that was there through COVID. Same thing, tried to walk into a pub like he'd bought this, $1 million property, being on his $150,000 salary. And
that's
yeah,
cracker.
the pub owner, and I think the whole town pretty much got behind it after that, and he basically just can't go into town. Like no one, yeah, same, no one will talk to him, no one will serve him, and
That's
this
what
is,
we need to do.
I totally agree, and point these people out, and this whole thing of so many people, I suppose more normies, they know that these people are bad, at least bad, and not good people, but because they've got all this money. They 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 see them as they're successful or something without even thinking where they get the money, especially politicians, man. That like
Yes.
where's all them? Like they're stealing, like they're robbing us blind. So I agree. The only way to do anything is to actually take action, right? And action that's going to have a consequence. You got to think about what's the result of what I'm doing. Because like I said, it's great to get out, it's great to get around people and do a protest and woo-hoo, but what's the result of that? We've got no
Yeah,
evidence
nothing.
ever of any protest ever changing anything.
No. I mean, we did have one here. We had riots when they changed council tax. We used to have rates. So each property we had the council would bill you for waste collection, street lights, road repair, and so on. And a bits of it went to the police, fire and fire service, uh, and and schools. And then suddenly they changed it to that instead of the household having a bill, each member of the family, everybody in that household, received a bill, and that caused riots, and literally London was being smashed to pieces. There were fires everywhere, and they actually did turn that around. But the problem with that is, like you said, with CS gas and everything else, and pepper spraying, that we're in a position now where I think that they'd be a lot more aggressive and forceful with us. I think that they'd try and get the army onto the streets, and ultimately the police and the army are supposed to be protecting us, but that's not going to happen. And I would also argue that perhaps people that are considering joining the armed forces could say, well, hold on a minute, who am I fighting for? Who ultimately benefits from war?
Yeah.
And walk away. So
Away,
if we
man.
stop,
All
just
bankers,
don't
all wars are
participate.
bankers' wars, right?
Yeah,
Rich
yeah,
Rothschild said that. Of
they normally fund both sides as well, and
course.
that's the problem. We've got to stop participating in their games, and ostracize these people. They're no longer welcome.
Mm,
um, but the problem is that people, when they start, as you said, they become wealthy and powerful and connected, they want to hang around with these people. They want to be part of it. They're lured in.
mm,
And you can see why, can't you? If someone said to you, well, look, we can make another one of you, we can clone you, we can give you access to anything. There are underground tunnels, so you won't sit in a traffic jam any ever again. We can get you from A to B in a few seconds. Everything's going to change. It's not just having
mm,
money, but everything that and we're going to share information with you. You can live forever.
Technology,
Um,
yeah.
you can see the attraction, can't you? But for the rest of us, for the 99% of us, there is something that we can do. But that's my fear with the cloning, that there is no need to repopulate because of AI and robotics. They're not going to need to do that.
Mm,
So and we've heard, haven't we? I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Prince Philip, before he died, famously said, or famously here at least, that so he was asked if he believed in reincarnation, and uh, and he said, "Well, I'm not sure, but if I could come back as anything, it would be as a virus
A
to
virus.
depopulate."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I know, right? Like that, he was particularly evil, that dude, I think. But I
mm,
mean, Charles is out there too,
really.
you know, very happily saying, "Yeah, Vlad the Impaler is my ancestor, you know, Dracula,
Yeah, yeah,
right?" And
that's
he's
nothing
quite
to
happy
be.
about that fact. You know, which is, you know, the bloodsuckers, right? The loose
Yeah,
suckers. So
yeah, and I
you
think
know,
that
people are what you know, they do, right? Like they do tell us these things. It's always slipping out,
yeah,
you know, like the celebrities, right? And there's a rapper as well, isn't there? I've forgotten his name, who's said he's cloned a couple of times.
Kid Boo
Kid Boo, is it? I don't know who he is, but I have seen him talking about cloning.
is in my book somewhere. I actually got a yeah, I included, apologies, this is the black and white version because I bought out a paperback, and that's the
There
guy you're
he
talking
is.
about.
Yes, Kid
I did a
Boo.
paperback which is black and white,
So
and
hold the book
the
up. What's the book called? Why you've got it there? Show us. Show us the book. Rise of the Clones, the Cabbage Patch Babies. All right.
yeah, so the hardback's color, and the paperback's black and white. Big, so, so people can work with their budget accordingly. Um, because there are a lot of photographs in it, and some people, for some people it's just supporting the information on the page. For other people, they actually do like looking at pictures in books. I'm
Mm,
one of those people.
mm.
um, but a lot of people, when I bought my first book out, it was black and white. Hardback and paperback were black and white, and that was to keep the cost down that they retail for.
Printers. Yeah.
And a few people have said, "Oh, could you do a color one?" So I brought out a special edition color of my first book, but it's the printing cost is so high. So I
Yeah.
did that. So with this, I just decided two books: paperback, black and white; hardback, color. Um, but yeah, Kid Boo's in there. Michael Jackson. Did you see the
Yes.
interview? Dave
Dave. Oh, yes.
Dave
Yes. That's an
Rothenberg.
interesting one, isn't it? I mean,
Mm,
it's the exact same voice. It's like the
yeah,
same demeanor, everything, isn't it? But
I'm very confident. He took control of that
well,
interview.
he just yeah he was and he was just out there, right? Look, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe he thought it was a good disguise, but Michael's an interesting one, right? Because we've got pre-Pepsi Michael and
Hmm.
post-Pepsi
Yeah.
Michael. Do you think that was a clone change?
Yes, I do. I think that he was so badly disfigured during
Yeah.
that commercial incident that that was the end of an incredible money making machine. And of course, when these people, I mean, I don't know if you know the background. I won't sort of repeat it here, but if anybody wants to ask me, they can email me or get in touch. But Michael Jackson went through. Well, actually, to be fair, that I put a little bit of information in the book about what happened to him as a child.
All right, go buy
His
the book,
father
people.
was,
Link
yeah, his
below.
father was quite violent.
Yeah, so I've
Um,
seen a
but
bit of that. Yeah, he was
but it's
like sadistic almost, the way he used to beat them.
yeah, it's a little bit worse than that. I mean, he was literally putting Michael on loan to people as a child.
Well, you
Um,
know, that's a weird thing that doesn't get spoken about because that happened to, do you remember Leif Garrett?
I know the name, but I
He was from
don't.
the 70s. He was like the it kid in 78 or whatever. I think movies, he probably did everything right. But same, his mum basically, yes, like signed over guardianship of him to like the movie theater
Mm,
or what, and he was raised
yeah,
from like 15 by them. And Justin Bieber, it looks like the same thing happened to him.
yeah,
Like,
and Miley
how is
Cyrus, and
how is this anywhere near legal? Obviously, it's not, but why aren't people talking about that? Like, because if we can name three, it must be, you know, happening a lot, right?
yeah, yeah,
I also heard that old man Jackson even sold, right? That part of you that you sell to the D man, of all his
yes,
kids.
yeah. That's I've actually that was where Donald Marshall was vital when I was doing the research, because Donald explains exactly how that process works. So ultimately, your approach, and he claims it's the Illuminati, that a combination of the Jesuits, the Freemasons, he said in America the Scientologists are connected with it too, and the Oddfellows. So you go to Hollywood, you're offered a contract, and they're given an option. You can either sell your soul and we'll make you famous, or we can make life impossible for you so you won't get anywhere. Those are your two choices. So a lot of people will think, well, I've sold my soul to the devil, and they won't necessarily believe that that's even a thing. This sort of the soul, your aura, how can you sell that? But what they don't understand at the time is that actually they're selling the right to be cloned.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
what selling your soul is. And it's what happens to those clones. So let's say, for example, I am a very powerful, very wealthy person connected with Hollywood, and I'm having a dinner party tonight. Well, I want to eat my dinner off Madonna. I'm going to have a naked Madonna lying on the table, and I'm going to eat my dinner off of her. She's then going to do some songs, and then we can all do whatever we want to her. It's a clone. Now, as long as Madonna toes the line and does what she's told, she puts out as many songs that they want, and she attends the events that they wanted to attend, nothing will happen. They'll just mess around with the clones, and they can make as many as they want. But if she doesn't, if she starts to speak out, or like Whitney Houston comes out and makes a statement saying she no longer wants to do public performances, she wants to end her contract, then they pay the ultimate price. And Donald says that the reason that this occurs is because when you've been cloned, when you go into REM when you sleep, that is when the information is uploaded from you. And he does explain how this works, and I've written it in the book because you know it's a lot to get your head round, but I've
Mm.
simplified it as best I can. When you go into REM, the information is then sent to the clone. So if you were to interview the clone today on TV, he would know exactly what happened yesterday and prior to that. So he's up to date, if you like.
Yeah, like an
Um,
upload. Yeah.
yeah, it's an upload. Now, if you're not towing the line, whatever happens to that clone will be uploaded to you while you sleep.
I just reverse it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you wake up, you're going to not only have the memory of something that happened the day before, which you're not going to want to even consider for one moment, but you're also going to have the pain. And
And
that's linked to aneurysms and heart failure.
yeah, wow. Okay, wow. Do you think that's what we're seeing when we see, people like Katy Perry freezing and the eye thing, and that lady, was she on some American show and she just went weird, and Hillary losing it? Like, do you
Yeah,
think
when she starts
uh,
talking about a char latte or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like, there's quite a
Mm,
few clips out there, right? And people freezing. I think there was the weatherman from Good Morning America or whatever, like
yeah,
just froze. Do you think, obviously, that they're clones? Like, why are they freezing?
yes.
Do you think that's some kind of trauma? Like,
I
are
think
they
it's a
the clones that
glitch.
have had this stuff happen to them and they've tried to override it or something? And they're just freaking out because it's a programming thing?
I
Like,
think it's I personally think it's a glitch.
just in what,
Be,
in the cloning process?
yeah,
It
I
hasn't
think
come
it's
through properly yet.
yeah, just a glitch. But Donald says that it can be there are two possibilities, that it could be a glitch, that these things. He said that and you can see this if you look at the incubator babies, the speed in which they were you know
Yes.
a whole baby grown in a few days,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of the advertising
Yeah, there's a famous
gimmicks
picture
for it.
where it actually, yeah, says that, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So he said they grown quickly in these tanks, and so they're adolescent, and they usually have a handler. Now, in the case of Chris Brown, the American rapper, His handler is allegedly Rihanna, and that's why when you saw him in court a few years back, that Rihanna is sat on her own at the back in the courtroom, and they said that the handler is controlling the clone. So but also, so it's not necessarily a glitch. If it's the real person, then there is a possibility that they have just had some trauma uploaded as a kind of reminder. We're going to publicly humiliate you.
Mm.
We're going to, you're performing tonight, or you're doing an interview today. You haven't done what we asked. You've mentioned something in the paper about cloning, or you mentioned someone's name that you're not allowed to, or you've put something within your song, and we've figured out what you're doing, or your latest music video, we don't approve of it, or you didn't produce the 10 songs that we asked you to. You only
Mm.
did 8 and then gave up. So what we're going to do now is that big concert you've got tonight. We're going to play around with you for a moment. So it's also possible that that's happening, but these clones are adolescent, and that's why they have to have a handler. That you won't see them on their own.
Oh,
And there is a
okay.
fantastic clip out there of it's Will Smith with Kevin Hart. No, it's not Kevin Hart. His name's gone. The actor that he did the Bad Boys, Michael
Bad
Lawrence.
Boys.
Is it
Martin
Michael Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Martin
Martin
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Martin
Yeah, yeah.
Lawrence. See if you can find the anybody watching this. See if you can find online the press conference they did. They're walking through a crowd. It's a press conference when the last Bad Boys movie came out. Will Smith is controlling Martin Lawrence. You can see it so clearly. Martin doesn't know what's going on. Will's answering questions for him. He seems dazed and confused. The same happened with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor did an interview a little while back after he did the TV. Was it TV series? Was it Roadhouse?
Roadhouse, that was a movie. I haven't seen it
The
yet.
movie,
Yeah.
sorry.
Mm.
Yeah, same thing there. He was interviewed after that with his co-star, and he was all over the place. He was jittering, his eyes were flickering, and they're
That's
saying that was so you reach this level of fame where they'll clone you. The clone can go off
mm.
and do things for you, so you can be on your yacht in the middle of nowhere. But also, it's some people have said that actually what they'll do is they'll take someone like Zuckerberg, clone him. He goes into one of these dumb bases. That's it. He's staying there for the rest of his bloody life. He's not coming back out. They'll have the clone version of him wandering around up here.
Well, Mark famously told us that he used to be human,
Yeah, yeah, he
didn't he?
did, didn't he?
And
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, have you seen that there's a story starting to rise, or excuse me, a narrative next Prime Minister of Ireland.
No, I've not seen that.
I haven't seen anything, but I've just seen a few clips and a few interviews and that, and he's now up there like very anti-immigration about Ireland, and he's very talking about the rights of the people and all this, and yeah, people have asked him a couple of times, "Oh, are you thinking of running for politics?" So something to keep an eye on, I guess. But I mean, that would
Yeah,
kind of go with the story, wouldn't it? Like once they've
yeah,
got him and he's controllable, well, he's ready for politics now, right?
yeah. Put him in a
He's our
position of
guy.
power.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And look, that's happened in America on numerous occasions. I mean, look at Ronald Reagan. You know, he's a
Yep.
cowboy one minute, the next minute he's the he's the president,
Yeah.
and then you've got it with Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he
Arnold,
was
yeah.
the yeah, and
The
this seems to
Governator.
happen. Yeah, and Trump is another good example of that. I mean, that people won't perhaps remember the property developing and how the original Trump business was built. That they'll probably more more so the younger generation will see him as a reality
TV, yeah,
TV show
yeah.
star.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What was it called? The Apprentice, was it?
The Apprentice. Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
sort of spawned from the series that
And he
started
was
here.
also in the wrestling. He was,
Yeah.
involved with WWF, and he's had bit spots in a lot of movies.
Mm,
Famously, he was in Home Alone, and
yeah.
they deleted his scene or something, didn't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah. I mean,
Crazy.
he's sort of he was more of a celebrity by a long way than a businessman or a politician before getting into office.
Yeah, well, even before the TV thing, he was like a celebrity businessman, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Just when he was just an
yeah,
investor, everyone knew who Trump was, and
yeah.
he's always been out there.
People say he doesn't sleep.
Yes, yeah, right. Especially the
But you
last
wouldn't
couple
need
of
to,
weeks
would
of the
you?
campaign, like the amount of
Mm,
shows he did,
mm.
like there was like 20 hours a day or something. Like there was literally no time for him
Yeah.
to sleep.
So
So
how is that possible? And to
I
remain,
think
I know that he,
76, I think he is, something like that.
I mean, like he comes out with some corkers, doesn't he? And but ultimately, to function like that, you and I couldn't do that. How many people could do what he did? And they say now that he still doesn't sleep. He doesn't appear to sleep. Um, so you know, maybe there are a few of him out
The
there.
three of him or something. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
On the
yeah,
go.
and yeah. So I think, and you could maybe argue the same thing with Musk.
Yeah,
You know, if you could take someone like him and stick him in one of these underground bases and say, right, you're just going to sit here and work out this tech for us while your clone's going to do all of the PR. Because whenever you hear Musk talk, he doesn't come across as being this
no, no, he doesn't
super
sound
intelligent
smart at
person.
all.
No, he doesn't, does he? And then
No,
people say, well, he just employs smart people. To be in the position he's in, you can't get to that
richest
level
man in the
just by
world.
employing smart people. You have had to have been smart yourself to get to that position, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these people have been replaced, and we saw it with so many. We've seen it, sorry, with so many actors, as you mentioned earlier on, that just look so young.
Mm.
Um, it just doesn't stack up. I mean, Biden appears to have been replaced several times.
He, definitely, like, yeah, the whole ears, like just a
Mm-hmm.
different dude. So, what's your take on the masks? Like, there's the whole theory of are they
Yeah,
wearing these super awesome masks, right? That you literally can't even tell that it's a mask. Like, they're so good now.
yeah.
And we've seen all the clips
That's
with, then you can see the neckline and bits
yeah,
flapping and all that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean that's certainly something that's going on, and oddly enough, I've actually written about that as well because the what really got me interested in that was doing a little bit of digging on someone called Gucci Mane. Now
Gucci
that's a
Mane.
rapper, Gucci Mane. Yeah, that's a rapper. That's worth looking into. Again, here I would have a few weeks ago I would have jumped on BitChute and told everybody where to look, but I can no longer access it. So
Oh, you
I
need
would
a
hope there's stuff
VPN.
on. Pardon?
You need a VPN.
Yes, I do. I did have one, and I haven't since we've moved.
I haven't
I
got it
haven't.
yet.
But it's something that I do need to do. But Gucci Mane, if anybody wants to have a look into to that,
Gucci Mane.
the deal with that was that he wasn't towing the line, so they managed to get him locked into prison for something, and as a punishment. And somebody else went out and he never that was it for him. That was the end of him. So I don't know what happened to him in prison. I mean, the story would be that he, at some point, you're released and you're back out there again. But that wasn't going to be the case for him. So somebody else stood in for him, and he was asked to go to an office in Hollywood, and he gets there and it's a very clinical room. It's all white, and he's took into another room, and there is a Gucci Mane suit, bodysuit, and he said that, and he was told that you're the same build, you know the score, you're going to do this from now on, because they hadn't cloned him.
Ah.
They
Well, I
needed
was
this
just going
Gucci
to
Mane
ask
to.
about Avril Lavigne.
Mm-hmm.
There's the whole,
Yeah, she's
well,
long gone, isn't she?
yeah, well, this is the thing. Like when she came out, she was this, rebellious, sort of punk, sort of looking skater
Yeah,
girl, very anti-establishment. And then literally, I think it was her second album, she was suddenly this Pop Tart, like with
yeah,
makeup on, like everything that she was saying she was against. And yeah, the story is that she died at some point, and
Yeah,
kind of like Michael, I guess she was a money machine, right? So they didn't want to let it go, and they just got
yeah,
her double and turned
yeah,
her into the star. And so you would say that that's because they didn't get a chance to clone her, basically. She
yeah.
got big and then died early. Like, that's why Jane, I guess if they don't get you, then that's what all the Club 27 is it? People they didn't
Yeah,
get the cloning on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that those are those are the that's the deal. You're either going to sign your soul to the devil, you're going to sign it over, or you're not, and you're going to pay the consequences of that. And I think it goes back to people thinking, "Wow, I don't believe in the soul. It's no one can actually quantify it. So if I don't believe in this, and I don't believe that there's a hell or a devil, and it's all fictitious and just um, things that have been put there to restrict us or govern us to an extent or control, then you're selling something that in your mind doesn't exist. So there are no consequences. So it's not something that they consider. But yet you're quite right. The 27 Club. Um, I think that that's the ultimate price
Mm.
that you pay. I mean, another one, Bernie Mac, he's worth looking into. He started speaking out. The American actor, sort of comedian actor.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a black dude, right?
yeah, quite a big
Yeah,
fella.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they drop down dead. If they don't toe the line or they speak out, they drop down dead. And that's the deal. Either you sign over and say that they can clone you, but you don't know you're doing that. You sign on the dotted line that you're going to follow the rules, you're going to play by their game, or you'll pay the ultimate price. And I think with people that they need or want, they will clone regardless. So Donald's explained this in quite great detail. Again, I've sort of simplified it because it's a series of books and it's a lot to take in. So I've managed to put it into a one chapter, giving people enough info to then decide if they want to go and deep dive it for
Little more.
themselves. But
Mm.
you're invited to a party, your drink's spiked, you wake up somewhere else, and you don't know that during the evening that they took extracted from you, took a blood sample, and you don't know.
Mm.
Um, and so that's it, the clone made. So you're going to perhaps want to clone. Let's say, I mean, there are a lot of people that would suggest that Facebook was actually a deep state operation and Zuckerberg's the
Oh, for
front man.
sure,
But
man. DARPA.
if we just ignore that for a moment and let's pretend that it's all down to Zuckerberg. Now, you might want to control him because it gives you access to everybody on Facebook, and it's a brilliant machine for manipulation, indoctrination, propaganda. And now, if he's not going to play ball, you can get him, stick him in one of these underground bases, and get him to keep churning out the tech. And while his clones out there doing the interviews, and it's the face of it all. You stick him on Joe Rogan everywhere else, and he's in the underground base, knowing that the moment he doesn't do what he's told, there might be an issue with his family. There might be a problem for him. But keeping him alive when he has a use is important. But the actors, I don't, and singers, not so much because they're
Mm.
not actually creating or inventing anything that's life changing. They're propaganda machines
Yeah,
singing
yeah.
the narrative they want. Like Katy Perry, baby, you're a firework, telling you to fly up in the sky and everything. 5 minutes later, she's
She's
pretending to go in a
doing.
rocket. Yeah. So a brilliant bit of PR there. Um, and I think that's what it is. It's these people are being cloned and used to push certain narratives at
Genders,
us.
yeah, for
Yeah, and
sure.
agendas. Yeah, yeah. I think that that's ultimately what it's about.
What do you think happened on that, just quickly on that rocket flight? Like it just went so wrong. Do you think they just stuffed it up and it just went
Yeah.
against them, or was it meant to look that fake and have all those like I mean, do you think that the only problem that they just is because they live streamed it and they just went, oh crap, and it all fell
Yes.
apart?
Yeah. I don't think they should live stream that sort of thing. I
No,
mean,
no, they took a risk and I mean it's
yeah.
probably I think it's yeah, just more evidence of the charge changing and they're telling us there's a pole shift coming, right? But it's not, it's not some big thing with the North Pole. It's just positive to negative, I think is what it is.
Yes, yes, I think you're right. So, and people tell me all the time that the white hats, whoever these people are
Negative to
have in
positive, I should say. We're going positive.
yes, negative to positive, yeah, that they've infiltrated key areas and organizations,
Mm,
and they are doing these things. They're the ones that perhaps were behind putting Tartaria out there. Um, but these people, if they could be in, if you've got somebody in a key position that's involved with that publicity stunt with Katy Perry,
mm.
they could quite easily throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah,
And yeah, so they apparently some people have been replaced with good guys, and some
yeah.
have got into positions of power where they can slowly start changing things and making life a little bit harder for not for us but for the 1%,
Yeah, yeah. Well, good.
for the
I'm backing
parasites.
that. I'm backing that. I'll back those people. Um, all right. So, what do you think about things like um, this changing, actors changing roles? Um, Jim Morrison became Rush Limbaugh, and Jimi Hendrix became what's his name, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
And later,
that's a good one. That
Gaga used to be what was that British girl with the black hair?
Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse. That those
Yeah,
two, they almost they do look identical. It's crazy.
yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Bottom line is, I don't know, but I really enjoy it. Because my favorite one of all of those is actually Nikola Tesla and Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa, yeah.
Now that one's uncanny. So yeah, I think that that's quite possible. But could it be that you see, I see that there are different possibilities here depending on where you're coming from. So let's say, for example, Elvis Presley and Pastor Bob Joyce.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, yeah. So the story goes with that he reached a point where it was killing him, so he bought himself out of the deal. He paid X amount of dollars to no longer be Elvis Presley, and that's why his gravestone has his name spelt incorrectly. It's his middle name Aaron that's spelt wrong. I think
Oh,
there's either
okay.
one R instead of two or two instead of one.
Okay, yeah, right.
Now, he was a deeply religious man, Elvis Presley, and he never lied, and that's why he didn't want to put his correct name on the gravestone, because he just didn't lie. So you hand over a large amount of money and the rights to everything, and you go and disappear and live your life on a beach or whatever, or become a recluse, and then pop out a few years later as someone else looking slightly different. Now he is now a pastor in a church. He sings, he dances on stage. I've heard him singing in a bar with his son, and a couple of times he's slipped up. He's been singing in the church, and he's got up and danced a little bit. And he said, I used to do all this with my hips, and you used to see me doing this, didn't you? I can't do it anymore. I'm an old man. And a couple of sermons that he's given, he said that I had all this money. I was famous. Everybody wanted to know me. And now, and now I just want to get the message of God out there. So a few times he's slipped up, and people have analysed his face. They've analysed his voice. He's born on the same day. He's the caretaker at Gracelands.
What?
That he lives in Elvis's old house.
The Pastor Bob he
Bob
lives at
Joyce lives in Elvis's
Graceland.
house.
Are
Yeah,
you
he's the
serious?
caretaker
I
and
didn't
the
know that
local
part.
pastor. Yeah, it's right in your face.
Have you seen Paul McCartney? If
Mm.
there's a clip out there of this dude who is the caretaker of the house that Paul McCartney was born in, you've
I've
got
not
to check.
seen that. Obviously, I know about the split with
Yeah, you've got to check that out,
someone
man. Like this dude comes out and he's Paul McCartney. He's just Paul McCartney, but suddenly he's the caretaker, and he looks more like the original Paul.
Yeah,
Because the Billy, he's
yeah,
sort of changed, as he got older. He's sort of looking a bit, different. And the original Paul had a rounder face and stuff. And
yeah.
But yeah, man, it's crazy. And he's, yeah, the caretaker for
So
the,
do you think that sometimes these things are so crazy that you don't believe them?
well, I mean, it's a
And
good
that's
way
how he get away with
exactly,
it.
yeah, they make them so unbelievable and so weird and crazy that, you have to be a loony, you have to be crazy to believe that. And then,
Mm,
it's easy to shoot that anyone speaking about it down, right? Oh,
yeah.
don't be daft. That's stupid, you know?
And it's funny you say that because that links back to why you would put someone in an orphanage when at the end of Tartaria, they're saying, well, hold on a minute, we used to have free energy and, where's all this mud come from? Where are all these babies from? What's going on here? Who are these people in charge? Why? That's not why we went to those churches. Where have these crosses come from? What are you doing? What's going on? You're mad. You're crazy.
Mm,
This person needs to be
totally.
locked up. Mm,
Totally, man. I totally agree. I think that, yeah, most of the mental asylums were to do with what you think. I mean, they call them mental, mind asylums, right?
mm,
They're telling you it's people with a different mind are getting locked up there so they can't influence
yeah,
because they're trying to introduce a new narrative. They don't want people like us running around going, oh, that's bollocks. Don't believe that. That's crap.
yeah,
No,
exactly.
this is for this. What are you talking about? No, no.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I
Yeah, I
definitely think
agree.
and then, when you find out what went on in these asylums, that's how they would treat, their enemy, right? Their perceived enemy, right?
Yeah,
They will basically torture houses, right?
yeah. I mean, they lobotomized one of the Kennedys, didn't they? I can't remember her name, but she was lobotomized.
Yeah,
One of the
right.
Kennedys. Yeah, I mean, you've got that. You've got electric shock treatment, and they everything they could possibly try and do, they did. But there's a very fine line between insanity and genius, isn't there? There's a very fine line between those. And maybe these people aren't insane at all. They're in a different
But
dimension,
they just see
or
differently, yeah,
yeah,
than
yeah, they're
us,
just seeing something we don't.
seeing more.
People that see things all around, maybe their pineal gland is functioning at a different, capacity to ours. I mean, ours are pretty much calcified, aren't they? But maybe they're just seeing things that we can't see.
Mm, yeah, totally
So you shut them up.
like children before they get indoctrinated, right? And told that all this
Mm,
crap is, unless you can see it and feel it and touch it, it doesn't exist, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, and that's the same thing. That's how they make all that stuff ludicrous to most people.
yeah,
If you're in it, say, oh my God, I saw a fairy last night, like people are going to say, what are you, what are you talking about? Fairies don't
mm,
exist. You must be
mm,
crazy. Time to go to the therapist, right? And we all know what the
yeah,
therapist is, right?
yeah,
The
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, you're dead right, and it's funny, isn't it? I think that by about 9 years old, your pineal gland's pretty much calcified. Certainly in us, certainly in Western civilization, anyway. But and it's weird, isn't it, that one minute you're seeing monsters under the bed, fairies at the bottom of the garden, and the next day it's gone.
yeah,
Almost in the blink of an eye, you stop seeing these things. Um, but where did that come from? I mean, we as children, we obviously felt something, and
yeah,
then like
yeah.
you said, we're told to shut up. We're told that it's not true, and and if you carried on seeing those things, then they'd have you medicated, wouldn't they?
Well, it's weird, isn't it? I was just thinking, like, if it's little kids saying, "Oh, I saw," at nighttime, someone was in my room or something, that'll be, oh, it's not real. No. But if a dog is sitting there in your corner barking at the wall, you're like, oh my God, there's something there.
Yeah, yeah.
Believe the
I mean, the
dog.
film
Don't believe the
Monsters
child.
Inc. It just made me think of the film Monsters Inc.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah. Well,
that
that's totally about that whole trauma kind of
mm,
thing, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is. It's a business that's about scaring kids.
yeah, yeah. So you can get something from them to benefit you. Yeah,
Yeah, I
which we
know
can't
something
talk
called
about.
loosh, maybe.
Yeah. So it's out there, isn't it? And this stems back to my belief, and I know you're the same, and a lot of us are in our community, that a lot of what we consider to be mythological I think isn't mythological at all. I think it's
No,
these
no,
things
no. The fairy tales are
were
real,
real.
and his
Yeah,
story is the story. Yeah,
yeah,
I totally
yeah,
believe that for sure. And I mean, I often wonder, is it just the fact that we're so programmed that, fairies don't exist and no, all this stuff doesn't exist and it never did? Is that why we maybe can't see it?
yes,
Is it still there, but it's only the people who have resisted or not been programmed that way, or that are still seeing them.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think so. I think so. And I wonder if you can decalcify your pineal gland, which people have told me is possible,
Mm.
um, and through meditation that you could actually get back to where we were and start seeing these things again.
Well, I think we're on the way. I mean, there's
Mm,
a lot going on, right? And there's a lot of fear, and of course, there's all this, narrative that stuff's getting bad and it's getting worse, and almost in World War III and nuclear bombs and the crash of the economy and blah blah blah,
mm.
blah, all this stuff, right? Climate change, aliens now coming to attack. They've even come out and said the Anunnaki are coming back, but
Yeah, I keep
I,
hearing
I,
that.
I don't think they ever left. Um,
I'm
but
with you on that.
yeah, but it's all just a narrative, right? Just
Mm,
it's all just the story that they've still got control of. If we didn't see any of that stuff, how much of it would affect our lives, right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
much would actually directly affect us. And there's even a lot of it we can't even prove. And
mm,
a lot of it we can prove was complete crap, like, the wars and why they were started and what actually went on. We know it's all what we get fed is BS, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So that they just love the fear, right? And this story. But I think if we can rise above that and stop believing, because this is the thing, like everyone says, oh, it's all a lie. Oh, it's all, yes, all, all of it. I mean,
Yeah,
all of it, like everything. That's where you've got to be, I think, so that when you get information, you go straight into, hmm, I wonder if that's true or not, rather than, oh my God, this is happening. People get hooked in, where I'm always just like, well, that's interesting. I wonder
yeah,
what happened. I wonder if it's real. I wonder if it's not. Who knows, right? Because you can't, everything we get comes from the system pretty much, all information,
yeah,
including all the old books, right? So we don't even
yeah,
know where we are with the information from, history, right? I spend most
mm,
of my time telling people it's all crap, right? So then
yeah,
how can we trust parts of it and not other parts? And I mean, it's a big thing, but I do think that like it's changing for the better, even though they're trying to tell us it's not. I think that's just them panicking, right? Because they're being exposed and their little scam is falling. I think the energy is changing, which is, helping them, us see what's been going on the whole time.
yeah.
And this is the thing. It's not like Biden, was, the first retarded president, right? Heaps of them have
No,
been, but we just haven't
there's Bush
seen it.
before that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, we just because the veil's been there. Now it's lifted. We're like, oh my God. And look, of course, all the politicians are rich. Look at them all, and then they're stealing money here and there, and then you get into Hollywood, and so it's breaking down pretty quick, like the
yeah,
the whole facade that they've put up there. So I think they're panicking, and that's obviously why they're trying to push agendas faster. But
yes,
everything they seem to do seems to fail and go against them, right? It's, like Katy Perry going to space.
yeah,
That just that just went so royally bad, but it all does, right? It
yeah,
all seems to be going bad. They just don't seem to be able to get anything, through properly anymore because they're no longer in power, right?
yeah.
They're not,
They've
they're
lost
not,
it, haven't they?
yeah, yeah.
And that, like you said, that's why they're rushing to do all of these things. They're trying to rush as much as they can through, aren't they? And
Mm,
and we know that if you rush something, that there are going to be problems. It's going to be flawed,
mm.
and I also think that there are people that have infiltrated, as I was saying earlier on, that people have infiltrated, and they're helping bugger stuff up for them.
No,
They're
of course.
assisting in every way they can without it
Yeah,
being obvious.
I'm definitely into that. I mean, yeah, And I know I'm a bit 50-50 on the whole sort of white hat thing. I definitely
Me too.
support the idea. Um, and there's not a lot of direct evidence, but I think there is, a lot of circumstantial evidence that something's going
Mm,
on, just because basically nothing that they do is working. They're
mm,
getting exposed at every level. Every time they try and do something, it just backfires, right? When
yeah,
they try and push new stars up, no one's interested anymore. All of the Hollywood stars have fallen, right? They can't sell movies anymore. Like all this woke stuff, it's going bad for them. So I think it's good times, man.
yeah,
I think we're going to see some
yeah.
change.
I think so. I think so. Maybe that's, that is what this reset is all about. This reset is a positive one, and they're trying to, the parasites are trying to reset, as they did before, and this time, what they aren't able to do is control us to the same extent because of the speed in which we share information. They can take it down, but by then it's gone viral, or other people have started sharing it, the stuff that the speed in which stuff gets out now, the information is exposed, is so much faster, and that's what we've never had before. So for all of its bad things, social media is giving us the opportunity to share things
Mm.
quickly. um like yourself, when I first started looking into Tartaria, you could go on YouTube, and all I could find was Max Segan talking about it.
Maxi,
um
yeah.
and now if I typed it into the search bar, there'd be a plethora of videos and podcasts about it. So I think there are people out there that are exposing things, and they're being guided. As for the white hats, every time somebody talks to me about them, and I speak to someone occasionally that talks about them a lot. I mean, Elizabeth Hancock, who you know,
Mm.
and I said to her that, who are they? Where are they? Can you give me some names? And she knows someone who knows them, but he won't give any names. A fellow called Simon Parks. He's apparently connected to them. And I said, I hear this all the time. Where
Simon
are they? Who are
Parks.
they? Hmm.
Yeah. Because he was around in the 2020, sort of 2021, wasn't he? He was one of those
Yeah.
people like, I was like, keep
Hmm.
telling me definitely, and nothing keeps happening.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said,
But I
with
mean,
regard to
also
him.
then, this is the thing, like there's so many different perspectives. I mean, if it was a real story and they wanted to kill it, what would they do? They'd put all these
Mm.
actors in their places who keep promising all this stuff that never happens. So everyone goes, oh, it's all crap.
Yeah. Yeah,
So there's all
exactly.
these different ways to look at it. And I
Mm.
get that if that's happening, then it's a massive job, right? You just don't walk in and suddenly overthrow it all. Like you've got all these different interlocked organizations and people everywhere and blah, 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 blah. So it would be a long process. So
Mm.
yeah, I think we should all put our energy into, hopefully someone's out there helping. But the other thing is don't sit on your ass and wait for it because
No,
if it's
this
not
we can help
true, if
ourselves.
you wait for someone
Yeah.
to save you and they never turn up, well, you're in strife.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And I think ultimately we've got to save ourselves.
Mm,
We can't rely or wait for other people to do this for us. We've got to see what's going on and just not participate. If we're not interested in what they're doing, if we don't take any notice, if we turn the news off and say we're just not bothered anymore, and
mm,
stop buying the newspapers, and over here stop paying your TV license and stop watching television, then they're going to realize that people are switching off, and they can't program anymore without us watching programs.
exactly.
Just turn the damn thing off.
Mm.
um
It's
and
all
and, and that's
consent,
that's
right?
got to be it.
And that's why it's all consent. It comes down to the fact, well, you turn your TV on and watch our programs. We tell you they're programs. What are you complaining about? You
Yeah.
know? But yeah, and I think all that, and I think also another big one is, spending, right?
Hmm.
Materialism,
Oh, yeah.
consumerism, all this kind of stuff is they've got us, what we're wasting our money on crap for starters
Hmm.
and bad food, but we don't, if we ignore all that crap as well and we start to, barter, right? Start to help each other out and try and
Yeah.
do our trading as much as possible out of the system, then that just breaks them more and more. I mean, and it's happening like there's shops closing down everywhere. It's
Yeah.
I saw a thing in US for two Big Macs, two Cokes, and two large fries. It's like $28
Wow.
US, which is like $45 Australian or something.
Yeah,
It's
it's about 20, 22, 23 pounds here.
so like
Yeah.
it's they're sort of killing themselves as well, right? Through all
Yeah.
this stuff that they've
Oh, you
created with
just
the
reminded
economy,
me.
right?
I've got to share this with you. When my wife went to Canada the other day, we stayed in a hotel near Heathrow Airport. Now, I don't know, I had to do this. Now, I don't know how good you are at converting currency. So this would be about $15.
What?
That's a little pot,
Of
smaller than my
chewing,
phone, of
like
chewing gum.
the chewing gum extra,
Yeah.
15 bucks.
Um, there you go.
So that's in pounds, right? Snick, what? So that'd be, yeah, $7, $8.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is
Um,
because it's in the airport.
no, this was a hotel in London.
Oh, a hotel.
Yeah, just near the airport. Yeah.
What?
Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah, $7.30.
Yeah. I'd never seen anything like it, but my favorite one,
Can of Coke. Oh, can't see how much is that. Is it $8.30?
£3 25.
Oh, £3 25. Well, that's not so bad.
£3 25 for a can of
So
Coke,
what's
which is a
that like?
pound here in a shop. They're about a pound.
Yeah, five
So
bucks.
three times the price. And what was brilliant was the shelves were full. I'd looked at them in the evening and then I saw them in the morning, and no one had taken anything. And
Good.
I think if you're going to if you're going to try and extort like that, then we have to boycott.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
Yeah.
all poison anyway.
Oh
All
yeah,
that stuff is
absolutely.
all poison. So, like if you're gonna if food's getting more expensive, then at least spend your money on food.
Yeah.
Don't spend it on
Yeah.
poison, right? Spend on things that's gonna nourish you, not something that's gonna, fill you full of sugar and buzz you out for an hour and then collapse you. It's
Yeah.
crazy, and this is the thing, ultimately it is our consent. A lot of people love to say, oh, but they're doing this and they're doing that. Well, really, we're all consenting to it.
Yes,
And
that's
yes, we
right.
were born into this, and yes, blah blah blah. But there are ways around most of these things if you put your mind to it, right, and a bit of energy in there, and you stick to the trail. Like there's people out there that are out of the system that are driving without driver's licenses that are not paying tax. Like they're out there, so it's
Yeah.
it's all possible. But we've just got to believe it, right, and do the work, I guess. We'll stop waiting for someone else to come and save us and say, oh, here you
That's it.
go. Just fill out this form and then is good. We'll come and drop the $1 million off later this afternoon and
Yeah.
you can run off into the sunset. All right, that's not how it works, right? You have to deserve something, you know.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
which is deserve, right? So you have to stop serving what you're currently serving to deserve something, right? To
Yeah.
deserve. So it's all
Yes.
in the spells.
Yes, it is. It's so cleverly done as well, isn't it? A classic example of this is a friend of mine does podcasts here where he talks about fighting back against the system. This guy called Richard Vobes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's got yeah. Now he will go on there this morning, for example, and say that he's decided he's not going to pay his council tax anymore,
All
and and,
right,
and these are the
Richard.
reasons why. Yeah, and he doesn't pay that. He doesn't pay tax or anything. He argues that it's my legal fiction you're writing to, and if you want to write to me, do it correctly. And if you want to send me a bill, send me an invoice. Don't send me a demand or a summons. Send me an actual invoice. But I know you can't do that because I'm a member of the public and you're a corporation. And so he tells people what he's doing and how he's doing it. And what he'll get is bombarded with people contacting him saying, I've decided not to pay my council tax and now they're going to take me to court. What should I do? And he had, but I think my favorite one that he said was somebody had followed his advice and wiped their mortgage, something like £250,000. I think it was £270,000 they've managed to wipe by going down the straw man route. They
Nice.
thanked Richard for all of his help. And at the time, Richard had just been demonetized for putting that content out there. on YouTube and was asking for donations to keep the channel going. Nothing. The bloke didn't
Nothing
send him a
coming
bean
in.
and just saved £270,000. And I thought, there you go.
It's
You can only help people so much. And
yeah,
of course,
yeah,
no good deed goes unpunished.
people, as soon it's the weirdest thing. As soon as you start trying to share truth, people think you need to do it for free. They think suddenly you don't need
Yeah,
anywhere to live, you don't need to eat, you don't need to be warm. You're just gonna, you get free internet somehow.
yeah,
Right? They just want you to keep doing it, and they're like, well, if it's the truth, why would I need to pay? I mean, you're paying for information, right? You're paying to save
yeah,
yourself money, but the main reason is if you don't support what you love, it goes away.
yes,
Just like you said, Richard, he might have gone under and then no one gets the information.
yes, that's right.
So we do need to stand up and support, like yourself. Everyone, go buy the new book and the old one, links below. Because we're only just starting to get these books out again. There used to be these kind of books around in the 70s and 80s, and then they stopped, right? Like you haven't
Yeah,
seen this kind of information being sold out in the public for a long time. So if we want these books and we want to read them, then we need to support the people writing them. It's that simple.
yeah,
If you wrote a book and you didn't sell any of them, well, that would probably be your first and only book, right?
yeah,
It takes a lot of time and effort and work, and you've got to be able to live while you're doing that. And
yeah,
it does my head in because I know that all the time these people who are saying, "What are you doing? Why are you monetizing? Why are you trying to sell stuff? Oh, this should be free." I know that they work for corporations. Their job every day, 5 days a week, is supporting the system they say
mm,
they don't like and don't want to be a part of. And yet, as soon as people try and
absolutely.
leave it and try and show others ways that they can get out, no, they won't support them, and suddenly you're the enemy. So, if that's you, go find a
Yeah.
mirror and have a good hard look at yourself.
It's funny you say that, because I said to somebody the other day that they asked where my books were available, and I said that Amazon,
Amazon.
but they're now like in Waterstones, which I was really surprised at. But Amazon is where I've sold the majority of my books because I used Amazon to publish them. And a couple of people have said to me, well, I don't support Amazon. I don't like Amazon. I don't want to support a brand like Amazon. And my reply to that is, would you mind? Because you're texting, well, you're on Facebook Messenger. So I'm assuming you're using a tablet or a mobile phone. What brand is it? Oh, it's Apple. So it's made by a 5-year-old in a sweatshop in China. That's okay. But you won't support somebody who built an empire selling secondhand books. I
Mm.
understand your logic. I think.
People just don't
And
think,
you
do
put your
they?
Levi's on and jump in your BMW and then go to a supermarket.
Yeah,
You're either in it or you're out, and
yeah.
it's very hard to be out of it.
And in the end, it's like we're so lucky that you can publish a book, right? Like 10 years, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that unless you got
No,
picked up by a publishing house and all this money was involved. I mean, you can say what you want about Amazon, but it gives access to authors to get their products out there.
yeah,
A lot of people have made money off Amazon, and it's more, it's don't shoot the messenger, right? If Amazon is the way to get the information out, well, it is. If you've got a problem with that, guess what? Go and build a website. Start a new bookshop where people can sell their products. Don't complain about it. Be part of the solution, right? Not part of the problem.
that's it. That's it. You're quite right. And we can argue till we're blue in the face, but ultimately, you can't if you're going to say, for example, just boycott Amazon, then that's a drop in the ocean. You're tweeting about how you hate Amazon on your phone, like I said. That it's a huge brand. You're going to get in your car, which is a brand. You're going to fill up with fuel and support, a petroleum company, and you like you quite rightly said, you probably work for a huge corporation too. You can't pick and choose these things. Now I know that I use Apple products. I know that I'm going to have to go and buy printer cartridges from somewhere for my, I can say right, I'm boycotting everything. I'm not going to use any. I'm sick of consumerism. I'm out of the game. How do I print something? If I decide I'm not going to post anything on social media anymore, I'm going to post out newsletters. I've got to buy a printer and a load of printer cartridges. Then I've got to use Royal Mail, part of the system, to distribute them. I've
Yeah.
got to pay for the postage with, the king's head on the stamp. Until the
The
whole
internet.
thing's overturned,
The
we
internet.
have to use the bits.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Who owns
yeah,
YouTube? Who's making money off the internet?
mm,
All these things. It's like, and I've always said, use the system against it.
yes,
If it's going to help you in any way, then use it. If it's going to help destroy it. And but this is where we are.
mm,
Yes, everyone wants change, but it's not here right now. We've got to work. We've got to build the change. If we want, new whatevers, right? If we want new movie industry or music industry, we have to create it. Because if we
mm,
don't and we expect someone else to, guess what? We end
it's
up in
not
the
going to.
exact same position a couple
Mm.
of generations down the line. And this is
We
the
need to
main
be the
problem. This
change,
is
don't
why
we?
we where we are. People
Mm,
want something else, someone else to do it, which means you're a follower, which means you need a leader. And
yeah,
then they complain about leaders. So
yeah,
it's leaders can't exist without followers.
yeah, exactly.
You
Stop
know,
following.
stop
Yeah,
following.
yeah, it is like it is. I've said this before to you that it's like a mass Stockholm syndrome that we want the people that we despise the most, we still want them to make sure everything happens for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have a huge issue with what happened in 2020 and the medical interventions, but we'll go running to a pharmaceutical company when we have a headache instead of looking at actually I'm probably dehydrated and need to drink a couple of pints of water. We'll instantly we'll go big pharma, and we're fueling the problem. As much as we hate it, we've got to find ways
Totally,
to
man.
go back to how things were. And I think with regard to books, and the same is true of music and photographs, that all they've got to do is turn the cloud off or turn the internet off. We lose the Kindle books. We lose
Yeah,
our photographs. We lose our
yeah,
music. What do we have? We've got to buy books. We've got to buy vinyl. And
totally.
print our photos off and
It's
put them in albums.
electronic book burning. It's all
Yeah,
it. They've
well,
just
of course, and
simplified
that's
it.
why it's called Kindle.
Kindle, because why?
Where you start a Well, the reason Kindle's called Kindle is because that's how you start a fire to burn
Oh,
books. You need
kindling. Yeah,
kindling.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
You
Oh
can
my
switch the
gosh.
text in there. I mean, I haven't read my book on Kindle. Have they changed it at all? Have they altered some of what I've written? Ultimately, I don't think it's called Kindle by accident.
That's interesting, right? Especially from a company that started as a book secondhand bookstore, apparently, right? But
Yeah,
they name their electronic book Kindle, which would burn
yeah,
books. That's very, very
yeah.
strange.
And then they've got Amazon Fire.
There's Amazon Fire.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah. It's one of their little tablets.
Oh,
Fire.
really?
Yeah, so the clue's there. If you're going to burn trees down and start fires and name your products in an associated way to doing those things, they're brilliant metaphors. So digital books is not the answer. Digital books are burning old books. It's the destruction of a physical book.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
clue's in the name.
I love books. Unfortunately, this is not my library. Um, but yeah, I've still got boxes of them in Perth that I need to get over here. I find it so hard to throw a book away.
Yeah,
But that's what we
yeah.
need,
The
right?
old is gold as well.
More libraries. And it's so much more fun to, sit down in a nice chair and read a book
Yeah,
than to
it's a
be at an
dying
office
art.
chair at a desk, staring at the
Mm,
computer. And it's not good for your eyes.
no, it's not.
So,
No, we need
yeah,
to get
but
outside and
yeah,
read,
yeah.
or put the fire on and read, and
And
yeah,
the fire, yeah. Ultimately, it's all our choice, right? We can
it is.
complain or we can be part of the solution, right? So,
Yeah.
yes. Wow. Geez, we've almost been going 2 hours. So
Bloody hell.
I know, right? Goes
Christ.
fast. Is there anything else you want to tell us about your book? Anything in particular, apart from
No,
go out
other
and buy it,
than
everyone?
I'll obviously I'll send you the link
Yeah, yeah.
the across, but and my email address as well. You know, if people want to get a signed copy, and what I thought I'd do for your subscribers, if they want to buy either book, then what I'll do is I'll send them a free audio book of my first Tesra and the Cabbage Patch Kids. I'll do that for your subscribers too.
Wow. All
And the
right.
nine
Special
ninety nine,
offer.
they can have it for free.
Jeez. Nice. There you go, guys. Buy a book and get a free audio book so you can listen to it in the car,
Yeah, yeah,
you
for those
know.
long journeys. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but you can still have the actual book at home. So,
yeah. Put it
yeah,
on a bookshelf. Don't read it, and get someone else to read it out for you instead.
yeah,
Then you've
indeed.
got the best of both worlds.
Exactly right. And do you read it, do you? Is it your voice?
No, no, I couldn't
No,
do it. I couldn't. I tried.
you
It's
tried.
awful. I get some sort of word blindness or something. I was actually I struggle within about a sentence.
Yeah, right.
What I'm doing is I'm editing, not reading. I'm thinking, oh, I could have
Ah,
used a different word there.
yeah,
It's
right.
you know it's been edited to death, but I'll still pick because you're always your own worst
Worst
critic,
critic.
aren't you?
Yeah.
So no, it was safer to get somebody else to do it.
All right. Cool. Well, you will find the links below, guys. So go across and buy his books, even though they are at Amazon. It doesn't matter. Support the people you want, support the information you want, and then we grow bigger, right? And stop supporting what you don't want. So there you go, man. Well, that was awesome. Thanks again for the chat. It's been a few weeks, but it's nice to catch up. Well,
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was nice talking to you.
yeah, yeah, man. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I'd love to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw you were chatting with Martin the other day. Maybe we'll have to have a three-way at some point. Get all
Yeah,
three
that
of
would
us
be
on
good
there.
fun. Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
welcome to come on mine anytime,
Yeah,
anytime
man.
at all.
Sure. Just let me know. I'm happy to.
Yeah, let's do it.
And of course, we're also doing an event together, an online event. I don't have
Yes,
the
we are.
dates. It's in June.
Yes, yes,
I'll find the link and I'll put it below, guys. It's like
yeah,
it's online, like a webinar type event. Martin's going to be there as well, Martin Leakey, and what another 6 or 7 people. I think there's about 10 people, isn't there?
yeah, yeah. Michelle Gibson,
Michelle
and
Gibson, that's right. Michelle came
yeah,
on. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, and we all kind of know each other, which is really lovely. With the
Yeah.
exception of Michelle, and she is coming on my channel at some point.
Oh, cool.
But they're all people that I've obviously we've all spoken to each other, and it's lovely. It's like we've got our own community,
Mm.
and we're joining forces to get this information out there. I think it'll be good fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, yeah. I've met Michelle. She came to Europe with us, so we spent a couple of weeks out there, and that's the other thing. That's the next thing. Once we get the farm built, then we want to start bringing people out and doing some events and getting people together.
Yeah,
And it's all about building a strong community, right? Getting everyone in
yes, it
touch
is.
and yeah, working together. Yes. Don't let these clone makers win.
Never, never surrender.
No, never. All right, mate. Well, that was really cool. Enjoyed that. Everyone, go buy the book. Links below. I'll also leave the link to your channel, which is also Tessa and the Cabbage Patch Kids. And yeah, have a great day, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, thanks for coming, man. All right.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, mate. And so awesome, everyone. Leave us comments, likes, all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk to you on the next upload. Bye for now.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come on!